Okay, welcome everybody. This session is deploying apps with APIs, and we're going to kind of explore the techniques to automate your QuickBase DevOps processes. These might be things like application lifecycle management, continuous integration, continuous deployment processes you might have set up, software development lifecycle. So my name is Eric Wehrman. I'm a solution architect here at QuickBase. I'm based on the West Coast, also known as the Best Coast. I've been an IT professional for about 15 years now. I've been using QuickBase for about 9 years. I became expert certified in 2018. I've also got some certifications across different facets of IT, project management, enterprise architecture, and service management. Okay, so some of the key concepts that we want to kind of want to have you take away from this presentation. So first and foremost, the new REST APIs can really improve the way that you build and manage your apps by automating arduous tasks and processes. So we're really going to make, we're going to automatically do the things that, automatically do some of the clicks and movement of your mouse that you would normally have to carry out, spend some time on. The demos in this presentation are meant to be inspirational and not prescriptive. So every QuickBase environment is a little bit different. So you'll need to figure out how to apply these best in your environment. For example, when you're building relationships, we tend to use the word related in front of and then following it with a noun in front of your foreign keys, related projects, related tasks. But this isn't a you can also, it's QuickBase, so you can kind of change the naming convention and make it anything you want. Well, changing things like that are kind of going to affect the way some of these, these processes work. And then lastly, basic implementation can sometimes be achieved by someone that's not a non-developer. But for some of these complex automation solutions, partnering with software developers, and these maybe are internal software developers like JavaScript or .NET programmers you might have in-house. Or some external developers, like our QuickBase service providers. And partnering with these people can really help you get the most value from your automation tools. So our agenda, we're going to kind of start with the problem here, kind of explain what we're trying to solve for here. Then we're kind of going to get the juices flowing by going into a simple example. Then we're going to review the architecture of a more complex solution. Then I'll go ahead and demonstrate that solution for you, which is a schema update. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and we'll recap and kind of review what we've covered. All right, so problem statement. What are we trying to solve here? Well, basically, you're spending way too much time and effort planning and executing DevOps processes. And these could be copying apps, updating apps, creating backups, forming restores, and everything else around this. And I've got a cartoon here on the right that I think kind of fits here. And it's this is a wizard, and he's made some experiments, and he's saying, of course I can't replicate my experiments. That's the beauty of them. In science, that's really not what we're going for here. We're going for there, but to me, this wizard, this scientist, or whatever you want to call him, he's our QuickBase builder. And as a builder, you've taken the time, you've listened to the the problems that the business is facing, you've listened to the requirements, and now you've used all your creative juices to build this really cool app that has all the functionality that's needed. You've tested it, and then you've demonstrated it and shown how cool it is, and now your boss says, this is great, but now I want you to, replicate this and do this over again. And you might throw your hands up saying, what you probably need is a break, but the last thing you want to do is go ahead and, do those same kind of arduous clicks that you were, and repeat what you had done before, or try to remember what you had done. So how are we going to solve for this? Well, QuickBase has a set of RESTful APIs. These are fairly new, but these are the REST APIs, and there's a few sets that will help us manage these processes. So there's some endpoints for dealing with applications. There's a set of API calls for managing fields, and there's some for dealing with tables and relationships. So what kind of solutions can I build with these? Got a few examples here. One might be an analysis tool. So you might do some querying against an application to collect some of the metadata about it and learn about the application. So you might find out things like, how many automations are in this application if you're looking at maybe converting your automations to pipelines. Maybe you want to look at how many email notifications are on a specific table. Another thing you might look at is running a tool like this over and scanning over time and seeing your data growth month over month or year over year, and then you can deal with any potential scaling issues that might arise. Another thing you might use it for is application cloning. And you might say, Eric, it's copying an application. I think that's like 3 clicks, right? That's not a big deal. But that's because you are probably a developer, an application builder. And you've got the access to do that. But think about your end users that really don't know what QuickBase is. They just have been told to get a copy of an application. What if you'd set up like a self-service store where anyone in your company can go in and download copies of your most popular apps that have been templatized. And we'll kind of go through that example. Another solution you might build is replicating schema changes. So here's an example where you might have multiple copies of the same or very similar applications, project management applications or CRM applications for different regions. And let's say you add a new feature to one of these applications, and you want to replicate that in the others. How you would typically do that is you build it once, then you would manually have to build that in all those other places, and there's lots of costs involved in doing that. So wouldn't it be nice if you could just push a button and then copy those changes over automatically? And another thing you might use this tool like this for is data replication. So if you need to move or copy data from one application to another, this might be where you've got one application in production, you've made a copy of it to do some work on it, you've taken that copy offline, your dev's been working on it, tested it, and you're ready to put that up in production and replace your old one. But you've been adding data to this new app or your live app in production. So would it be nice to be able to just click a button and fairly quickly or almost in almost real time move the data from one app or copy the data from one app over to another application? So how are we going to implement these solutions? There's a couple tools, and we're going to show some examples of this. One way you might do this is with our pipelines tool. This would be like a low-code approach. It is going to still require some understanding of the APIs, of the QuickBase APIs, and there's also going to be some limitations of what you can do with the pipelines product. Another way you can another avenue to deal with this would be to do custom scripts. And this is really your software development approach. This is going to require a good understanding of the APIs, and you have to understand how to manipulate, how to do data manipulation in whatever coding environment you work with, Node or .NET or Python. And really, the benefit though is you're going to get a lot more flexibility of what you can build when you do custom coding. So kind of a little more detail on this. So if we talk about these tools, so pipelines. So I've got a little screenshot here of a simple pipeline that's cloning an application. It's looking for a record being created as a trigger, so a QuickBase record, someone's requesting something maybe. And then that step B is using the webhooks channel, and it's going to make a web request or an API call to the QuickBase API that will initiates a copy of an application. So another tool we might use is a front-end script. Here's a screenshot from a QuickBase code page. So QuickBase has a feature called code pages that allows you to store these pages within the QuickBase environment, and you can do code pages that support front-end languages, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, so kind of a screenshot here. But we'll show an example of how to use a script to do some of this work as well. So some other tools you might think about using, you could definitely do server-side scripts, if you've .NET, Python, something like that. And you could also use another integration platform. So we're going to kind of go through pipelines, which is QuickBase's integration platform, but there's also other integration platforms out there, Ricardo, Del Boomi, and they have, you can use these in a similar way to make the API calls out to QuickBase. Okay, so let's go into our first example. So what are we trying to solve for here? So in this example, we've got an enterprise self-service app store, and this is an app that everybody in the company has access to, and this application allows you to browse some popularized apps that have been built within your company that have been templatized, and you can go in here and you can push a couple buttons and get your own copy of one of these applications. So what are we trying to solve for here? We're trying to automatically clone an application. And what are some of the operational issues that we're dealing with? You know, typically this has to be, or this does have to be formed with a user with administrative rights to the environment. So a standard user can't just go in and you know, make a copy of an application. And doing this work is it's non-value added work, right? There's no thought or logic involved in it. You really just got to click a couple buttons. So then what happens is the administrative people can become the bottleneck or delay. So if you've got to wait for a request for someone to get an app, you're taking time away from something else and you're delaying the person that might need that application right now. Okay, so before we go into the demo, let's kind of review the process architecture for what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna, as a user, we're gonna navigate into a QuickBase application, and we're gonna fill out a app request record. And then behind the scenes, we're on a pipeline that's going to make an API call to copy an app. The output of that is going to be a new app ID and a new app name. So we're going to go ahead and update the app request with that information. And then lastly, we're going to go ahead and send a email notification to that user, letting them know that their application has been done, since this was a back-end process, and also gives them a link to the application so they can get right into it. All right, so let's get into our demo here. So, we are talking about the API, so let's look at the API we're going to use first. So we were in our JSON API guide, which is found at developer.quickbase.com, and we're particularly looking at the copy an app action here. You can see the request body allows you to send in a couple properties. And in the response, we get some information back, like the ID of the application, the name, etc. Okay, so let's take a look at the pipeline that I built to manage this process. Okay, so this is triggering off of a record being created in our app clone request table. And we are going to, you'll see in the example, we are going to collect some information about the metadata. Do we want to assign a token, exclude files, etc. The next thing we're going to do is use the make request action to make a call to the QuickBase API. Now, this is where we're making the call to the copy endpoint here. We're using a post method. It's explained. Our content type is application JSON. We've got our headers here, and we've got our body here. That's in the same format as we've got our sample body in the documentation. So after we copy the app, we're going to go ahead and do a couple things. We're going to update that original request record with the ID of the new app. This then triggers the email notification to go out that lets the user know that their app is ready. And we're also going to, for housekeeping, we're gonna write this application to our some information about this application to our applications table. So later on down the road, if we want to then manage this app, maybe we want to do a schema push or something different with it, we've got this application on the list to do that with. So let's turn on the log, and we'll go into the app and run the demo. So I'm going to go into the self-service dashboard that our end users would see. And we've got some instructions here. And right here, I've got my project management app that I want to get a copy of. So this takes me to an app request form. You can see here, I've got my buttons to assign different features that I need. And I am going to assign a token to this so that the application token is available for making other requests down or doing other actions to this new application down the road. I'll go ahead and save this, and let's take a look at the log. All right, so we triggered off of the record being created in the request table. We made the API call to the copy endpoint. We got a JSON response back, including the ID and the new name. So it's Eric Wehrman's copy of project management. We did this using the using some of the user information from the QuickBase record, the record owner. We then updated the original record with the new app ID, and then we created a record in our applications table. We should have an email. There we do there. It says your new application is ready. You can click a link, and that brings us a link to a new copy of the app. It's got our 3 tables here. And that's going to look just like our project management app here with our clients, projects, and tasks table. All right. So that was kind of a simple solution there, but hopefully gets the juices flowing, kind of get some ideas of other things that you can kind of build. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture now. So now this is all kind of based on the QuickBase APIs, and so let's do a little bit of level setting there. So there's 2 sets of APIs. We do have an older XML-based API that was first developed about 20 years ago. It's got about 70 endpoints plus a set of Schema endpoints. They're a little bit confusing. There's multiple endpoints that do the same thing. There's one for adding a single record, or some for adding data in bulk. There's a couple of different ways to query. In general, the API ignores the method, so you can send delete and get the same result happening. And there's no longer active development on the APIs. They're fully functional, the ones that they're work very well, but we won't do any new development in the XML APIs. So we also have the newer JSON REST APIs, and these were first released in 2020. These have modern RESTful endpoints. They're a little bit easier to understand and follow. And then all the new API development will be done with the new REST APIs. Okay, so for the next tool we're going to talk about, the next process, really there's one central pattern we want to follow. And the goal of this pattern is really of running through this is going to be to find the differences between app A and app B. So we want to update app B to reflect application A for these different object types. So what are all the object types we're talking about? Oh, there's tables, there's relationships, and there's fields. And for each of these objects, I've got a workflow here, a flow chart that kind of shows a process we're going to follow when we write our script for this. So we're going to query all of the objects in application A. We're going to query all the objects in application B, or all the tables. Let's say if we're working through tables first, and then we're going to compare the output, and we're going to do that by looping through a list of the tables for application A and comparing that against app B. If we find a match, we want to check if there's any differences in the properties, and we want to go ahead and update that object. If we didn't find a match, then that's a new table where we need to add to our target app, and then we'll go ahead and add that table. Now we're going to run a similar process, but now we're going to loop through, we're going to run the list, we're going to loop through the tables from application B. And here, if we find a match, great. That means that the tables, we have all the tables, we have a table that we needed. But if we don't find a match in application A, that's going to be an extra table that we don't necessarily need. And then we're going to go ahead and delete that table. And once we run through this for tables, we run the same, we run through the same kind of process for relationships, and then again for fields. Okay, so let's get into our second example. So what are we trying to solve for here? So here's our project management application, and off to the right here, you can see that we've got 3 different copies of this application that are out in the wild. Project management app A serves our West Coast people. Project management app B serves our East Coast, and project management app C serves international. And so we've got our schema here off to the left-hand side, and our schema as of before is our clients, projects, and tasks tables that we've got. And what we're looking to add is we want to add a module for parts requests. So that's going to require 2 new tables. That's going to require a parts table and a parts request table, and the relationships and fields that are required for those. So the problem we're trying to solve for is adding, changing, and removing tables, fields, and relationships. And then some of the operational issues that we're kind of working with here or dealing with here. This requires repetitive, non-value added work. So you see, you're looking at, hey, I need, there's 3 fields I need to add here. So you're just looking and kind of clicking through and adding those fields, looking at the source. But while you're doing that, there's risk for making mistakes. Whenever you do manual work, there's going to be a risk there for getting it wrong. And there's going to be downtime for the maintenance. So you're probably going to have to plan this out, and maybe you take the system down on Friday afternoon, get all the work done, and then you can put it back Monday morning. But also, while you've got some downtime, you might even have a data quality issue, because now you might have other systems that are running and 24/7 or while you pulled this offline. Now you've got to update that with anything that's changed during that downtime. And then you say, well, you know what, adding 2 fields and 2 tables, that's really, and that's not that much time. It is quick based. The idea of it, this is low code and it goes really fast. So, maybe adding 2 new fields and 2 new relationships, 30 minutes for the tables and the fields, and maybe 15 minutes for relationships. And that's, give you a little time to test it out as well. But now think about scaling this. So now let's say you've got 10 different copies of this app, and now you've got your environment where you're pushing your updates, once a week. So that could be 30 hours a month of time. So that becomes a little more significant a chunk of time when you scale this out a little bit. Okay, so the process architecture for the schema update. This is really just a simplified version of what we looked at a few slides ago. We're going to get the tables from app A. We're going to get the tables from app E. We're going to loop through the app A tables, and we're going to do a compare. When we find a match, we're going to update. If we don't find a match, we're going to do an insert or a new record. And then or a new table, sorry. And then we will loop, and we're going to basically run the loop the other way around, looping through all the tables in app B. And if we find a table that doesn't have a match from the source app A, we'll go ahead and delete that table. Okay, so let's go into a demonstration of this. Okay, so once again, let's start with the APIs. So we're going to use some of the table APIs for this script. First one we're going to use is the get tables for an app. This is going to give us a list of all the different tables for a single application. This will give us our 2 lists that we can compare against. And as we run through the script, we'll run create a table if we need to create a new table, or run update a table for table updates, and we'll run the delete table for removing any tables from the destination that didn't need to be there. So, and we got our original app here. This is our project management app A. project management app here. This is going to be our source app. And so let's kind of go through this. It's got the 3 tables here. So now we're going to go ahead and add the new tables that we need. So we're going to need a parts table. And a parts request table. And while we're in here, on our clients table, it's got a little update to our description. This says all client records, but let's get a little more specific. Let's say all client records from SAP. That is our source system here. And if you remember, we made a copy of this app earlier, and so let's take a look at that. We got Eric's copy of the project management app. So this one still has the 3 tables here, and let's just for the demo here, we're going to say that another developer, another builder was started work on another task here, and he has a orders table here. All right, so now we've got 2 applications, and they're obviously, you can see that they've got some differences here. So let's go back to our schema update tool. And now let's go walk through the script that we're going to run. So we're in the pages section of QuickBase, and I've got a HTML page up. So this is a HTML doc. I've got a kind of a boilerplate set up here. Some basic HTML information. We've got a div here that we're going to show we're going to run our status updates through as we run through the script. And then we've got some JavaScript. We've got a little bit of CSS for styling in here, and then we've got our JavaScript. We've got a couple lines of configuration, and then we run into the script itself. We're going to make a call back to the record. To get the information we need, which is basically the table IDs that we picked. We're then going to query the tables. I prefer using the fetch command, and we're doing a little bit of stuff that's asynchronous here as well. Then we're really just running through our different API functions. So we've got we're going to compare. We're going to run our table compare with our loop. We've got a function for updating a table, for creating a table. We've got our second loop. We've got a function for deleting a table. Okay. Let's go back to the app, and we want to do a new schema update request. We're going to pick our source app, which is our project management app. We're going to pick our target app. Go ahead and save this. And now we're going to go ahead and click this button here, which is linked to our, take a look at this button. So this is linked to this references the code page we created, and we're passing in the record ID, so then we can go ahead and run a query back against this record to get the table IDs from it. So let's go ahead and run this script. Okay, so it started here, we've kind of got a log. So it started comparing from app A. It found the clients table, it found the projects table, found the tasks table. It deleted the orders table that we had as an extra table in the destination app. It updated the information on the clients table. This was the table description. And then it went ahead and created the parts table and the request table. All right, so let's go back to our copy of the application, and we'll go ahead and refresh this. And you can see now all our updates have been made. our orders table is gone. Our parts table is here. Our parts request table is here. We go into our clients table, and we've got the update of from SAP in here as well. And remember, we did clone this application. We created this application in the first part of the demo to tie this all together. Okay, so let's kind of recap. So the APIs can be used in conjunction with other tools to design and build a wide array of functionality that can automate your everyday work. And we reviewed doing a tool in pipelines, and we reviewed did a demonstration of using a front-end script to do this. Other tools you can build. You can build a data migration tool, and we discussed that just a little bit. You can also build a metadata repository, and there is an example of one of these in the application exchange for QuickBase. So resources. Our API documentation is available at developer.quickbase.com. That is for the JSON REST APIs. And then if you want to download a copy of the code page, you can go to my the GitHub link you have there, to my GitHub, and download a copy of that to work with. All right, now I'll go into questions.